long time.
It is.
I've learned so much. It just seems like a shame. My knowledge is,
Yeah,
but,
I don't know if anybody's gonna log in or not, but I guess we'll find out.
and then my daughter's getting married.
Okay, well, Robert's online.
Yes.
Seriously, I was hoping you guys were going to show up.
What?
I
Found
was
out.
hoping we wouldn't show up.
It's unmuted now. Yeah, he can see me.
Where's the microphone? Can we?
There aren't any.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, we're all the hallways.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, the gate was locked. Oh.
And then I went to the second floor. Then I realized I couldn't get on it, and I had to go.
We all did the same thing.
down to the library, went to the elevator. The elevator won't go up to the third floor. So then,
We all did the exact same thing. Hi.
good for you.
Yeah,
It was locked.
I only allow myself those stairs once a day. That's
Right,
pretty.
so no red of it, but we have a quorum, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a quorum.
Then, all right. Do you hear us,
Did all three of you?
Vice Chair Watson?
Yes,
Okay. Do we hear him?
You should be able to hear him. I don't know why we can't.
can you hear me?
Not
Can you say
muted.
something?
Can you hear me?
There's no audio.
There should be. Even on mine, there should be. Let me look here. Hold on. Ah, There we go. It's muted for some reason there. Talk, Robert.
Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, let me see.
Where's
Your
is
controls
the
over there?
microphone? Is there-
No,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
there is not. See, this is difficult because of it being both. So I don't know how we're gonna hear Robert. I don't know why this is
There was
working.
a guy.
Where are the speakers?
I was working out.
There aren't any speakers.
Oh,
There
you
aren't,
want me
because
to-
see, this is a Teams meeting place and we do Zoom. So yeah, he can hear us, so.
Bob.
So the only way we would hear him is through your laptop?
He says he can hear us just fine. He's typing. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Vice Chair Watson, if we need to hear from you, I guess you're gonna have to write. We don't have speakers to hear you.
I've got a speaker on my phone.
Well, let me see if I can do it from the email.
Oh, that'd be
Because
great.
I have
Yeah,
speakers on
if you
here.
could join
Robert, can
it,
you say
but
something
it would
now?
still be better than
Hi
nothing.
there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's not my speaker. Because I just turned it all the way up and it's
What
fine.
about this? What's this?
It's your speaker and it's up all the way.
I'm not muted.
So yeah, you too.
Okay, Robert, talk.
Hello?
There you
Cool.
I got it.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there. I just got back from California.
People don't usually say, Robert, talk, do they?
No,
Yeah.
they don't.
Okay, there.
okay, let's call the meeting to order. Will you please take attendance?
Colleen Dickerson? Absent.
She did write me an email that she was not able to join on Zoom or in person tonight. Didn't really say why, but she let me know that she couldn't be here.
Okay. Sonia?
Present.
Monica?
Here.
Robert?
Here,
Julie?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
Okay, everybody's here except for Colleen.
Rita.
Oh, Rita? No, Rita.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a quorum. All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from
Says a lot, doesn't it?
our May 17th meeting? Motion to approve. Thank you, Member Strong. Is there a second? Thank you, Member Bowden. We please take a vote on that.
Say aye, please.
Hi.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
You heard from Vice Chair Watson.
aye, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. But this is the time for the public forum. No one is anyone present online?
There are two participants and I believe it's me and yep, Robert. So there is no one.
Okay, so we don't have any members of the public present. So we'll move past the public forum. And then we have code enforcement significant events, code manager Lewis.
Hello, everyone. First off, I wanted to thank you all for your ongoing service. We have two members that are leaving us who have dedicated three. One of Miss Dickerson is out. And I really just wanted to take a moment to recognize them and thank them. And I do have some certificates from the police department I'll be presenting later, more privately when we adjourn the meeting, if that's okay, with the chair. But I really just wanted to thank you all for your dedication. And I know council will be doing something for you as well. This is not an easy board to be a part of. Code enforcement for any city can be hot button topics and at times controversial. People are very passionate about what goes on with code enforcement and how that works. And what you guys have done for the city has really left a lasting impression. And to think about this, think about the magnitude of what you have accomplished. You have changed municipal code. And to go through that process and see how this works and to persevere despite conflicts or controversy, and that you've made a lasting legacy in code and in records and in notes that are going to be enduring with the city is a tremendous accomplishment. So I really have to thank you, because your names are out there in the history books, and the city of Inglewood is making a positive contribution to the city. So thank you so very much for the work you do.
Yeah.
Just some updates. You all know that we have been struggling in code enforcement like many of the city departments and cities and companies throughout the country of struggling with our workforce. And I'm happy to announce that we have a seasonal code enforcement officer that is trained and is out of FTO and is out there actively patrolling the streets.
What's FTO?
Field training officer.
Okay,
We
thank you.
require a training period to make sure that they meet the requirements of the city, that they understand what code is, how to properly enforce it. And it's basically a formalized training process with another officer to make sure that they meet those standards. So they have met the standards and they are currently out enforcing weeds and overgrowth. With that being said, I'm very happy to report that we have issued 337 weed violations to date for the season, and we've issued 108 overgrowth violations. So what the seasonal person is doing is primarily leading the weed inspections in the city, supplementing the code division. Code division is inspecting major thoroughfares, so major throughways, business districts. Then the seasonal code officer is going into the more residential district, neighborhood by neighborhood, in a grid pattern, making sure that all 9,500 residential properties are inspected at a minimum of once during this growing season. I know that's not ideal. I wish we had more officers to do that. But this is the most effective way to do some type of an inspection, education, and enforcement component. And then code officers are going through. We want to make sure that the city has, just like with an interview, or if you were to go buy a new home, first impressions are everything. And so we want to make sure that when somebody comes into our community, that they're having good, positive first impressions. And so we really want to make sure that those main strips and business districts are maintained to a level of high standards. And so we're really working through those right now. It is a long process, as you know. It's a 21-day total process from beginning to end before some type of official enforcement or summons action is taken. So even though we've issued notices, it may be a little bit longer before you see more actions on those thoroughfares. For those properties that will not be found in compliance, we will be utilizing all of the tools available under the nuisance ordinance to enforce those, which may not just be summons, it may be an actual abatement of weeds and grass and overgrowth in those areas. So be looking out for those improvements. I'm also very excited to let you know that on Monday, our park ranger code enforcement officer is starting, and will start his training process. I can't wait for him to meet all of you. He has a wealth of knowledge. He comes from Aurora, where he has a background in animal control, animal welfare, and public relations and sheltering. So he's an expert on animal behaviors. And this is going to be a tremendous asset to the city, because he'll be doing park ranger and a lot of heavy animal control responsibilities in the city. So with that being said, we will not have any current openings, not to foresee the future, but at that point we will be staffed. And I outlined the process of weeds and overgrowth, and so I just kind of wanted to see what your thoughts are. If you guys think that this process, based off of last year and this year, we utilizing the grid neighborhood to neighborhood and thoroughfares, if you think that meets a minimum requirement for the city, and if you're happy with that process. I know it is not ideal. We'd love to have 100 code officers inspecting every property for every weed, but this is the most effective way and best use of resources without having someone jump from this complaint to this complaint to this complaint, that they're systematically going through the whole city, being equitable and fair to each property value within the city.
It's proactive. I mean, that's something we've talked about many years. And I don't recall there ever being a systematic program like that, where you hired someone and they've done the grid pattern review. That's awesome.
We did it last year, but not to the extent that we've isolated different districts. And so we actually have a whole process of where they're going to be each week to do their inspections to complete, and whether they get ahead or behind. It's done by this grid systematic way of looking at the city. So
That is great. I always know when I go from Denver to Inglewood, because Inglewood looks so much better than Denver.
say that louder,
I
please.
agree. The grass is picked up, the grass is green, the lawns are mowed. It is, I know when I go from Denver to Inglewood or Inglewood to Denver, Inglewood looks so much better.
I appreciate
Well taken care of,
that feedback.
higher standard.
I would greatly appreciate it if you also let your district council member know, because feedback like that is important. Those types of things are important and are valued to the city and what we're trying to do. And I recognize the same thing. When I come across Broadway from Denver into Inglewood, there is a dramatic difference. And I think it attributes to the business districts, the enforcement, the expectations, and people really also working together to try and solve some
And the
of
artwork.
growth. And I think the
Yes.
artwork is a tremendous asset, not just because it's art, but if you think, I recently took a graffiti art class, and the
Teaches
psychology
you how to do graffiti?
to teach us graffiti, but about the history of graffiti, and we actually did some in a legal place. The psychology behind graffiti and tagging is very complex. And so when you put up intentional works of art, modern art, murals, it is less likely to be tagged over because there's an unwritten rule amongst taggers and graffiti artists that if it is a mural, if it's someone's hard work and time and energy, that they won't come in and erase that or tag over it. So that adds not only beauty, but it also adds a deterrent factor for that type of crime.
That's interesting.
So it's a whole thing I learned. I'm so excited.
There's also that little Banksy sitting right now.
Yes.
It's
Interesting.
What's
That's really pretty.
Banksy is a famous graffiti artist out of the UK.
They didn't know who he
The whole
was for
sport-
many years.
The whole sports castle right now is a gallery of his art.
Mhm.
It's fascinating. If you get a chance, go see it. He's a fascinating, well, I say he, nobody really knows who this person is. It's secret. It could be.
Well,
more
they
than one
do
person.
kind of.
They do.
He's the
I-
one that the art, he had a piece of art up for well, he didn't have it. Somebody had a piece of his art up for auction. And when it was sold and they did something to the artwork, it immediately dropped down and shredded.
Oh, yeah.
And it was shredded.
Sold
Yeah,
for
that was
millions.
about five, 7 years ago.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that, yeah.
That's
But I was,
There's a documentary about that.
that you have to look into it. And it was fortunate when we were in traveling overseas in London recently, and I took this class. We did get to go and see several pieces of authentic Banksy art that's out there, and people are very respectful, and I'm just in awe of how it's really changed and beautified certain neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
I-
it can send really positive messages. to the community.
I agree.
What's the, can you give us the definitions for weeds and overgrowth? Like different-
So that's a great idea. So when we're inspecting, we're looking for grass and weeds to be maintained under 6 inches. So not landscaping, not intentionally planted items, but grass and weeds. And we all know thistles and certain items that get above, that's the requirement under 6 inches. Overgrowth gets a bit more complicated. It actually falls to right-of-way responsibilities. And so we're looking for alleyway obstructions, not just grass and weeds that falls into there, but trees. We have Ms. Dickerson is known for talking about her volunteer trees, and they are sprouting up in certain alleyways. And so we're making sure that those aren't inhibiting vehicle traffic. We're also taking a look at sidewalks to make sure sidewalks aren't inhibited. So if they are impassable by 25%, they need to be around 75% passable. But if we're seeing like tree branches where people have to like physically go into the street to avoid them, dangerous like rose bushes or some type of item that might be hanging over, or stop signs that might be impeded by tree branches, then we're issuing notices of violations for those as well as part of this program.
Now, is the process for if someone has weeds or overgrowth, is it is it like the old way that snow removal used to work, where you do a notice and then they have so much time to respond?
It is.
And then it would go through adjudication?
So we follow the nuisance process that's outlined in the ordinance. So they get the notice of violation. The weed and overgrowth notice of violation is not a very kind and friendly approach like we do with our door hangers. It is written as, this is what's happened, this is what needs to be done, this is what you're in violation of. If you do not do this, this is what the city's actions will be. And it lists out specifically the posting of what the city can do, like the legal formal language that's posted in the ordinance. And we have a tremendous success rate with people getting those as an educational, but a very stern warning, like you need to take care of this. The one troubling part that I heard is that I've heard from a couple folks who say they don't do anything until they get one of these notices. So it's concerning to me that we have some community members that don't actively take care of their yard unless they get a notice. So it's really putting an undue burden on the code enforcement division that there are some residences, and we know who those are, and we're watching them so that we can take more proactive steps with enforcement.
And if someone got a warning and then they took care of it, and then it happened again, they would just get another warning?
We have to start each nuisance abatement separately, because each event, basically in the legal terms, is you get a notice of violation and then you have a curing period. That's the time that that they're allowed to basically come into compliance for the property. If they come into compliance for the property, then that notice is closed and we'd have to start the process all over again.
Okay, and there's, because like with snow, it's like one
It says
warning
one.
per season, right? So we don't have that.
We do not for, no.
Okay. And then is it, what, do you have a sense of what percentage is identified by code enforcement observation as opposed to, are there really any public reports of it?
I can give you a more broken down officer initiated versus citizen. I would say, based off of what I've seen, without giving you an accurate number, over 90% of these, the numbers that I gave you today, are officer observed.
Okay, so it's not a common thing for citizens to bring that one up?
No, it's common. We get a lot of email complaints, or our mobile IngleFix app receives a lot of complaints regarding grass and weeds. And we've been letting people know during this phase that we are proactively doing this, that we're doing it neighborhood by neighborhood grid system, and that property will be addressed sometime within a short period of time.
Okay.
It may not be within our typical standard of 5 to 7 business days. It may be a little bit longer, but again, we don't want to have a resource that's jumping around different neighborhoods instead of systematically making sure that everyone on that block in that neighborhood is treated equally for that time frame.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a program like Snow Buddies for like senior disabled people who are having a hard time keeping up with their own lawns or their own weeds?
We do not have one of those right now, but I think that's a great opportunity that this board could explore and present to the city. I think that would be a good opportunity.
Do you know how the Snow Buddies thing started?
So some conversations between the community relations, Madeline, and code, and some programs that she had seen that were successful in other areas. We used to have a program with the Malley Center, but this was more of a formalized process that she put in place. And so she's the one that puts together the list and organizes that.
What was her name?
Madeline.
Is it Hinkle?
Yes, it is Madeline Hinkle.
All right.
And you can email me and I can do an introduction.
So that review also includes growth that is hanging over the sidewalk and you walk by, you have to,
Yes.
duck underneath it. So I saw an Instagram post. I saw an Instagram post that was, I think from the police department, that it was a woman that was walking her dog and she had clippers with her.
Oh.
And as she walked, she was clipping, which I've thought about before when I
Mhm.
walk my dog, but she was getting a ticket. She was being
From
cited.
us
Uh-huh,
here in Inglewood.
uh-huh.
From the police or code enforcement?
I think from the police because she was cutting other people's growth.
Do you find that, can you send it to me?
Yes.
I just want to double check because you do have to be careful about certain.
Well, I was like, oh, I better not walk with a clipper. Because I don't want to get arrested.
It's like we're trying to turn on a Logan and I can't see where their bushes. I'm like,
And we can always take care of some of them, and if you can't see, you know, there's a sight triangle that the city has to follow, and if it's causing a concern or safety issue for the city, we will address those. It comes into some crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, certain types of Colorado law regarding properties and neighbors and trees, like you can cut a tree if it hangs over your own property. There's nothing against the law with that. It just becomes then a civil liability between neighbors, potentially. You just can't damage the roots or do anything to the trunk, but you can cut tree limbs and
We
tree
can
branches.
still kill the tree.
It can, so there could be civil liability, but the criminal aspect of that, we would need to evaluate with the police department, but that's not common.
Any other questions for Code Manager Lewis? Okay, thank you very much.
Next, we would have update from our city council liaison. The council member, Russell, is not present. She hasn't joined, has she?
No, how many participants? Nope.
Okay. And then communications subcommittee update. So this would normally be Member Johnson, and then I checked in with her and to kind of be filled in on what the process has been for our communications, and she introduced me she communicated to Mr. Hargath, and I forget Vanessa's last name, but Diaz?
Davis.
Oh, Davis, okay. So they're who you've been working with, and Member Johnson also filled me in on like the slate system and how all of that works, and we can figure out if we want to make, I think we should wait until we have our new members and we'll figure out how we want to move forward with the communications subcommittee. But it sounds like the city has really been a lot more proactive on that than it used to be, because there used to be a lot of work on your part and Member Dickerson, and that hasn't been as necessary since Vanessa Davis has been doing such a great job writing the content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've basically just been receiving the posts and then approving, maybe giving some edits.
All I do is take your ideas and Manager Lewis's ideas and forward them. They have content writers at Slate, and Vanessa does all the social media posts, and she's been putting a lot of positive information out, and this is the same person that did the water when we had all the water problems. She's great at what she does, so.
Totally.
And it's great because we don't have to haggle about the wording of everything. Manager Lewis is the expert. We have the code, and it's been awesome.
Well, and thank you for all the work you did on that, and you as well before.
Well, when we first started on the committee, the communications were far and few between. There didn't seem to be a connection. I think Tony Arnold was pretty much the only person that was really pushing forward code communications, but it just wasn't top of mind. So.
Yeah, and we also, since that time frame when you all were writing the articles, and that's how it would go forward. Since then, the director of communication has really built up a team, and we've looked at resources, and we now have our own community relations specialist at the police department. We're really taking a focus on communicating forward and information out to the community, and it's based off of feedback from everyone that you all have given, but it's made it a lot easier also for staff, because we can submit ideas and then they reach out to all the parties that are involved to put together the content. So it's been very successful. But I remember back when you first started, it was articles and the changes and finally we would come to some type of, and then they would edit it for content and then just release what you guys put forward. But now it is really a professional, we even have our own video team in-house that does stuff. So
It's noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's huge. The only concern that I put in my communication to Carson was that I hope that the Emerald Ash Borer program is like, I don't even know who's managing that at this point, because I know Dave Lee is leaving, and we have a new
Wait,
state
what?
forester.
Dave Lee's leaving?
I believe so. I
Oh.
thought he was retiring. That's it.
That's
Did
what
I
the
just
word-
bust some major public information?
Good
Okay.
for him.
So anyways, but we have a new forester, right?
Mhm, we do.
And he should be really, feel like he should be integrated into that and, you know,
And he's been in to talk to the Parks and Rec Commission already,
Right.
and we will try and schedule him once things are settled here to come in and meet with you all. But I want you to know that it won't go by the wayside because it is something that is so detrimental to the city of Inglewood. I think it's just getting a little bit lost because there's so much happening right now in the city, so many positive things, that won't get lost because it is a program that's out there and has started and is really going to start taking off.
I think those tree banners that they've been putting on the trees, like when you go to Denver, you see it
Other routes.
everywhere. We had some here. But it's like now it's go time on that. And we did do a lot of work and they pushed out some really great information. I just would hate to see that drop off at this most critical point. And it
Yeah, I
is,
don't-
it's like, it's Parks and Rec and it's
Right.
code.
Yeah,
So,
we won't let it. I know that's top of mind for me as well.
yeah.
And plus we're I did, it's kind of a separate, like, I did communicate with, I checked in with the city attorney Niles about the tree and shrub code feedback, and she'll have her response to us so that we'll have it for our next meeting. But that's also part of it too. I mean, we're still actively working on that as well.
And the Arbor Day program and just all those things, they all go together. It's gotta be a multi-pronged approach. I feel like so many people have been thoughtful about it. And so,
Well, plus the whole new, the tree replacement program that Dave Lee told us about. I mean, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Do you have any info on that? Okay, that'd be neat to find out, like, where, like, maybe statistics on that. I don't know. That, I'll bring that up and figure out how we could, would that be like, we reach out to Dave Lee to find out that type of information, like who's using the program or how it's being promoted? Okay, that'll be useful. All right, but so I think we're pretty covered on communications unless you had anything else to add.
now I was just gonna ask if people wanted to generate any topics for
Oh,
the next
sure.
magazine or whatever. So we can-
Yeah, does anyone have,
last meeting?
This is my last meeting. Yeah. But.
so she did an email to Chris Hargath and Vanessa Davis and me, and then I'll make sure we either assign a new person once we have our full new roster, or I'll take care of it until we do. For making sure, you know, they have my info now too. You know, I'm chair, so it'll continue. Is that what you were wondering? That's why I reached out to her, make sure we had that covered. And does anyone have any topics to add? Are there any things that you know that we need to
No,
do?
because I think it's important for you guys to focus on what you would like to see or what you're hearing from the community, or maybe what you're seeing in on social media, because I have a component that I send separately
Okay,
of other things that are code related that I have to submit as well.
I see. So you have a separate channel with part of that you, okay. Yeah, does anyone have any other? Okay, I mean, I haven't seen what the lineup for next things included are, but I would assume seasonally they probably have one on weeds and overgrowth.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's probably gonna be too late for the week. Well, there is an overgrowth component in the Citizen magazine. But then when you start prepping for the next one, you probably need to think about fall and snow and ice and those types of leaves and those kinds of things that could potentially cause problems.
Sure, okay. So we've got time to address that. So let's move on. We'll close out our communications subcommittee. And then, so under new business, we have habitual barking dogs. And
So I would kindly ask that this committee consider tabling this. I spoke with the city attorney. There's, based off of feedback from this component, from this board, from code enforcement, and things that had occurred that are triggering some rewrites. I think I'd mentioned that Title VII is going to be looked at. It's going to be looked at sooner, and barking dogs is part of it. And I had sent my recommendations, and those were what I was going to bring forward. The city attorney is looking at Title VII and some significant changes to our code. So they're actively reviewing those. I don't know when it's going to be done, but they're working on it right now.
okay, so you're saying that that's something that we should wait and see what they come up with, and then review that and see if we have any.
They'll bring some stuff forward.
Okay.
Well, the code will probably, once it's completely rewritten and in draft form, will come to this board for review.
Okay.
She'll bring it forward to this board.
But it'll be very, very positive changes. Like I had said, one of the concerns with habitual barking dog is that it did have some components that made it hard to enforce because it did require, based on the interpretation of code, 2 individual neighbors that would have to file separate complaints and be willing to testify in court. This particular part of the code would make it easier where we only need a complaint with proof and a statement from a peace officer or code officer. So it makes it easier to enforce.
Okay.
And you'll see that with other codes. It'll be more consistent with state law. It'll be more consistent with our community because there hasn't been a major update. I don't see tremendous things happening with dangerous dog. Your recommendation, you were going to talk about the letter next.
Yeah.
So if you want to table barking dogs, then come forward that part next.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Is everyone
Yeah.
good with
Is it
that?
gonna be similar to like what Arapahoe County standards are?
No, Arapahoe County standards are very different
Okay.
and don't incorporate a lot of community standards because they're a county and they have a lot of rural unincorporated areas that incorporate livestock and other animals. But this would be consistent with state law regarding some changes to dangerous dog, which ours were pretty much adopted already. This was more of the penalties, fees, fines, and requirements for cost of care, which is the cost that if we impound an animal, who's responsible and how they pay those, and how the judge imposes those. So those are some of the changes, positive changes that are coming forward. So you officially tabled the.
Well, I was just getting everyone's weigh in on that.
You can table it all by yourself. As
I
chairperson.
still like taking.
Well, yeah, but you don't need to make a motion is what I'm saying.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Since they're currently working on it, let's see what they come up with. Plus we'll have new members and then we can address that then. So yeah, let's move on.
You have to say that though,
I have to say what?
that you're tabling this.
Okay, we're
till the next
tabling-
Meeting or whenever you want.
Yeah, we're gonna table habitual barking dogs until the efforts that are already underway by the city attorney and code enforcement are brought to us for our review. And then we'll see if we have any updates to that. And then moving on to unfinished business. I did send a letter with our question to city attorney about asking whether it made sense to address our recommendation around a visual indicator for dangerous dogs to be addressed as part of the permitting process or in code, but I didn't get it to her in time for her to be able to respond. So we'll probably have a response to that next time, but it sounds like we
I
have.
can give you an update on that. It is currently being reviewed. Some type of mechanism will be in place to identify dangerous dogs, and we did discuss the specific of the leash option. I'm sorry, the city attorney and I, when I say we, I apologize. The city attorney and I did have some email exchanges about this particular topic. and how to satisfy that. And so we did talk about the leash and talking about verbiage that needs to be on that leash. So that is going to be written into this code.
Okay.
The
So,
code changes in Title
so
VII.
right now it's already planned that it'll
It
be
is.
leash as opposed to trying to do a vest or anything. like that.
Yeah, and I think the leash makes more sense to make an animal where a vest can at times be impeding. But we do have a leash law in place, and so animals have to be on a leash.
Right.
So I think it makes more sense to require some type of a leash requirement, and dogs are less likely to wear things. And if you've ever seen some of the cute, adorable TikToks where you try and put clothes on animals, it doesn't always turn out okay. So just to be consistent with our ordinance and the leash law, I think that would make most sense.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts or discussion? Okay, and then so that's all we have scheduled for unfinished business. We did intend to keep this meeting short, so that Code Manager Lewis he wanted to recognize people. And then, so let's talk about future meetings. So our next meeting, I did not look at a calendar and my phone's broken, but assuming it's, can you say what date that is?
It would be the
I can.
third Wednesday, which would be July 20th.
So, I mean, that works for me. I mean, of the people that are here, the only ones that'll still be on the committee are
So
Vice Chair Watson and Member Strom. July 20th work.
I believe so.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll plan for that. And then let's go ahead and put the bylaw review on then. And then we'll have our new members. Hopefully we'll have some new members by then. And then I don't think we had anything else unless unless you have ideas for future topics that we need to address right now. Okay, committee members' choice. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up, discuss?
I would just like to say this committee has gotten more and more pleasant over the years that I've been on it, and I hope it continues in that vein. And I'm glad you're a new leader, Carson, and Manager Liz, you do an awesome job, and I learned a lot by being on this committee, so thanks.
I struggled to leave. I've learned so much because of you. You're such a good leader. Thank you for teaching all of us. So I'm gonna miss it because we have come a long way. I mean, 6 years ago, it was a very different environment and not a constructive one. And then you of course know about the whole committee being put on hiatus, and we made it through that, and we actually improved the committee because of it. So I've learned a lot, and it's been a great introduction to municipal work, and I'm going to be back. I just don't know what form. I hate to lose all the knowledge, but you can come back on the committee like after 2 years, can't you?
Yes.
Maybe.
So that's a reset after one term has passed. Oh, gosh. And then I'll just say thank you very much. I really appreciate your leadership, former Chair Bowden, because I've learned a lot being on the committee based on all of the efforts you put in, and I really appreciate all of your efforts throughout. And I hope I can keep up decently with the way you were running it. And thank you, Member Johnson. I'm sorry that you're having to leave with your responsibilities. And then Member Dickerson, who's wasn't able to attend tonight, but I mean, she's clearly put a huge amount of effort in as well. I mean, she constantly brings up a lot of details that not everyone else realizes. And I appreciate her time and effort on the committee as well. And she wrote me in an email that she was disappointed she wasn't able to join tonight virtually or in person. She's really appreciated her time on the committee, and I expressed that. Does anyone else have anything?
No, I also wanted to recognize the contribution that Member Dickerson made. I mean, to have somebody on the committee that combed through the code the way she did and looked at it from different angles that I wasn't looking at it. Her suggestions, it brought a new dimension you know, and having somebody on the committee that's willing to do that is really beneficial.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and it's carrying on because I mean, even now, the city attorney is reviewing a lot of what she wrote about the tree and shrub code, which is really good questions and good content. So we'll still be utilizing Member Dickerson's input for a while, I'm sure. And anybody else? Okay, then we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll forward this to you. next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Here's the
Bye.
post.
I'm thinking.
Here,
Recording stop.
here it says, have you seen this woman? She's been walking her dog through the neighborhood with shears haphazardly cutting people's bushes and shrubs. I noticed damage to many plants and I have evidence. This morning, she was ticketed by police at Sherman north of Old Hamden. If you live within a few blocks, and it may have been her. If you're a witness or have any footage, you may want to attend the court hearing on June